Welcome to today's episode of Double Take, a new podcast from your very own Devaney McClatchy
and Destiny McClatchy, two twins diving into the topic of mental health at PBL and how it affects those involved in extracurriculars.
The question of today is, are these activities supporting and benefiting students as they provide positive skills, or are they pushing students to feelings of anxiety, exclusion, and burnout?
Before we begin, we would like to give students a healthy coping tool. Let's take a moment to focus on our breathing.
Glenn Close once said, "What mental health needs is more sunlight, more candor, and more unashamed conversation." Extracurricular activities have been a way for students to build lifelong skills. This can be anything from communication, leadership, teamwork, time management, and even accountability skills. At Paxton Buckley Loda High School, students are encouraged to get involved before their freshman year, as teachers and parents believe these positive skills will stick with them even after they graduate.
In a small town like Paxton or even surrounding towns like Buckley or Loda, there aren't many ways to socialize or stay active in the community. Work and extracurriculars are the only options available for teens in town to be recognized. Teens try to find purpose and fulfillment through their activity, and the support they get back fuels their fire. What dims their light, also known as burnout, is pressures from their community and taking on too much commitment for an activity. Teachers, parents, friends have told underclassmen to try everything or get involved for many years. Yearly routine that the junior high participates in is having high school students, majority being junior and senior, go down and talk to 8th graders about their extracurriculars. I remember being both an 8th grader receiving this information and even going down there a couple weeks ago to talk with students. This fosters an environment that promotes new membership into clubs and activities, and getting the next generation of students excited to participate and be part of something bigger than themselves, depending on the activity.
One counselor noted, "The best thing to help your mental health is surrounding yourself with positive people and exercise." This supports the notion that activities can bring a positive support system and even a sense of belonging. But what happens when these activities become too much for one person? The pressures put on a student to be involved start to outweigh the benefit.
So like Glenn stated, we need to shed some light and talk about the uncomfortable things surrounding mental health and high-achieving involved students. A hard truth for many students is that there is only just so much time in a day. From a survey we conducted with about 70 applicants, over 50% of students say they spent 2 to 3 plus hours on their chosen extracurriculars. These 2 hours in a day turn into 10 hours per school week. So in just over a month, a student spends 40 hours of their time in an activity, and 480 hours if they participate in extracurriculars year-round.
This statistic, combined with the student's academic commitment, is a lot to balance out, as 75% of students claimed a busy workload as a source of their stress level. This is not to be confused over academic workload, which was its own separate option with 44%. 75% of students say that a busy workload was a cause of their stress, but only said that they spent 15 to 30 minutes on homework. This confirms that school workload wasn't the cause of their stress, but rather their activities were. Overall, a trend in the data of a limited time schedule can possibly lead to heightened stress, tiredness, and even burnout as teachers and coaches see these in and out of the classroom.
While homework is not the issue at hand, one student stated their busy schedule can impact their academic workload. 2 hours of track weekdays, 1 hour batting cage on Wednesdays, the rest is schoolwork time. It does affect how much schoolwork I get done, a student stated. If students are using more time on extracurriculars, they have less time to do assignments. This time crunching alone can cause stress and lead to unenjoyment in an activity. I personally enjoy having extracurriculars because they help me stay busy, but the cause of my stress stems from too many of my extracurriculars overlapping. While teachers try to take the burden off by switching test dates or giving extra time for homework, the root of the problem still lingers.
The root of the problem being that there is not enough time in the day, but that is not the only issue within students. Anxiety was accounted for by every teacher interviewed when asked about what mental health issues they see in their students. Teachers informed us that the pressure to perform inside and outside of school and their activity can lead to perfectionism or fear of failure, performance anxiety, and burnout, as they see these most frequently within their activities. One teacher said, "Anxiety is a big one for sure. You see kids get overwhelmed and stressed. A lot of kids work themselves too thin. With a small school, extracurriculars have pros and cons. We have a wide variety of activities, and balancing all those activities and schoolwork can get overwhelming. Research took into account every extracurricular activity, and through this, 83% of students from our survey had moderate or high stress levels on an average work week. While stress is a normal feeling in our everyday lives, when does it become a problem? When it starts to affect students' performance in school with grades, attendance, and just their behavior, teachers can notice this. In activities, it presents itself in the form of excitement, low performance and energy, and even possibly attendance and participation, as student stress can make them fall behind socially and physically within their activities.
Another issue that can lead to anxiety is self-doubt from those feelings stated earlier. A big issue aside from burnout is self-doubt from exclusion. Coaches want to believe their extracurricular is most welcoming and fair. There are social dynamics that present themselves and actually can impact self-esteem in students. The fear of being outcasted or belittled due to a specific extracurricular is frowned upon, but still frequent in schools today. While sports, FFA, and even the math team at our school is praised and supported by the community, other clubs and activities aren't as fortunate. Lesser-known activities like bridge team, scholastic bowl, or league have few members but are available to all participants, but still don't gain the support like other clubs. Why is that?
People don't want to be seen as nerdy, so some of those quirky clubs get the short end of the stick, but this exclusion from broader PBL society can lead to bigger issues. Exclusion doesn't seem to be a widespread issue, but coaches can still address that it can affect participation and willingness to do an activity. So while extracurriculars can be a sense of belonging for some students, it might add more stress and problems for others that aren't accepted as easily.
So what is the school policy, and what can we do about this issue that doesn't get as much light? When conducting our research, we decided to look into the Mental Health Day policy. Many students were unaware of the exact policy. The ones that took these days often felt like the risk outweighed the reward. A student stated, "If I had practice that day, it was unthinkable to take a mental health day because I am so needed at practice. If I had class, I would have to make it up on top of all my other work. I see the value of mental health days, but if you are in activities or rigorous classes, they are not worth it." This policy was put into place sometime after COVID. It begs the question if it is benefiting students, but what other options could the school do? It's hard to say.
While many teachers provided that mental health is an issue in our school, there wasn't much action taking place. One coach said that they just weren't educated on the topic and suggested mental health workshops or clinics. The first step to aiding students is becoming educated about their problems. One student in Ms. Schumann's class even did her investigative journalism project on mental health. But do we see her policies still taking place? Mental health resources on the bulletin boards and use of televisions. But I don't know the last time someone pointed these things out. I know I personally don't look at the bulletin boards, so I don't know if those resources are still available or up to date.
Debbie and I thought about creating a space where students could work on healthy coping mechanisms, whether that be breathing exercises like the one we used at the beginning of this video, or just a group for students to talk that just doesn't take away from academic and extracurricular time. It's hard to find a time that satisfies all these requirements.
The hard truth is, we really don't know what could be implemented to help this issue. We do know that bringing awareness is the first step, and although extracurriculars are meant to help students, sometimes it just overwhelms them.
So what do you think? Are extracurriculars helping or hurting students? Maybe both? Maybe neither. Lily Reinhardt once said, "You are the one thing in this world, above all other things, that you must never give up on." If there's one thing we want you to take away from this video is to put your mental health first.
That's all for this segment of Double Take. Thanks for listening, and we hope you take care of yourself.